Welcome to Cultural Catalyst, the podcast that shines a light on the creative visionaries working behind the scenes in arts and entertainment. I'm your host, Alison McNeil, CEO and founder of McNeil Creative Enterprises. With over 20 years of experience advocating for equity and sustainable growth in the arts and entertainment, I've seen firsthand the power of the behind-the-scenes creatives. Here on Cultural Catalyst, the creatives behind the curtain take center stage. Let's celebrate the people who make the magic happen. Let's dive in. Hey there. Before we dive into this episode, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the shifts in our arts and cultural landscape since these conversations were first recorded. We've seen the challenges to institutions, including the arts, but we also have seen the resilience of creatives and cultural organizations. If you believe in the power of the arts, now is the time to take action. Support the artists and arts organizations that inspire you. Donate, amplify their work, and stay engaged. Visit Americans for the Arts to stay updated on advocacy efforts happening on Capitol Hill and across the country. Americans for the Arts provides resources and opportunities to get involved at the local, state, and national levels. We'll link their website in the show notes and continue sharing updates on our MCE Instagram. As the legendary Carrie Mae Weems reminds us, art is the one place we all turn to for solace, and we need that now more than ever. Let's show up for the arts, for our communities, and for each other. Now, let's get into this episode. All right, I'm excited to welcome my guest today, C. Brian Williams. C. Brian Williams is the founder and executive producer of Step Afrika, a Washington, D.C.-based organization that has transformed stepping into a globally recognized art form. A National Heritage Fellow, Williams has been instrumental in sharing the tradition of stepping with the audiences worldwide and is celebrated for his visionary work in the arts, including receiving numerous awards for innovation and leadership. His efforts have cemented Step Afrika's role as DC's official cultural ambassador. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Allison, great to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yes. You know what? I am so excited to speak to you. And I just have to say, as we start, one of the first opportunities that I had working behind the scenes was with Step Afrika years ago. And so it's like full circle that we're talking now. And just to see all that's happened in that time, I can't wait to hear about how you got started and all of the things. So thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you. And I love our collective journey in the arts. Your role as a board member for Step Afrika many years ago, as a volunteer initially, and then moving into all the spaces that you have in the arts. Very exciting to see and just excited to be doing this work with you.
Yes, I get so excited every time I think about the shows that you have coming, the artists that I see evolving in the company, the board members. I think I just heard that you all have a spot on the Today Show. We're going to go into all of that. I just need to know, tell me a little bit about Step Afrika and what first inspired you to start a dance company.
Yeah. Well, Step Afrika is celebrating its 30th anniversary. Cue applause.
My gosh, applause indeed.
30 years in the arts, really pushing this art form. Very proudly say that we are the world's leading authority on the art form of stepping. I think we have earned that moniker. We're featured in the National Museum of African American History and Culture with the world's first stepping interactive exhibit. And of course, the National Heritage Fellow, which is our nation's highest honor in the folk and traditional arts. Just kind of really shows what Step Afrika has done. So I'm very proud of that work, but I'm especially proud of our work to center and support artists. Right now, Step Afrika has 19 full-time dancers, 11-month contract with all the benefits and whatnot.
Can we just pause? I have to say, for those listening, in the dance community, having 19 full-time dancers is not heard of. So we need to give Brian major claps for that. And how in the world did you make that happen? And please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you for acknowledging that. I mean, we know how rare it is, but we also know that the art doesn't get better, the work doesn't develop, and the performances do not happen without massive investments in artists. I think everyone knows that, but we internalized and understood that we had to create for our art form in particular full-time positions, because when we started this work, that was unheard of. We're stepping to be done professionally and taken onto the world stage. So what we have done is kind of pioneered the use of stepping as an art form. And we've introduced it to the American theater, so much so now that others are using it. Camille Brown used the tradition when she did Fire in the Bones. Beyonce was stepping in her massive show on Netflix. But Step Afrika has been doing this work for quite some time. And it's nice to see others recognize this art form and honor it as we feel it should have been from jump.
Why? But why stepping?
Well, for me, stepping is something I was introduced to on campus at Howard University.
Shout out to Howard.
Shout out to HU, no
This
shame.
Hampton graduate will give you props.
I love Hampton. Some of my best friends went to Hampton. You went to Hampton, but
That's right.
I went to Howard, and that's where I was first introduced to the art form of stepping. I pledged the fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Right.
Shout out.
Shout out.
The sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
That is me. That is.
And to the Divine Nine, who created this wonderful tradition. But when I learned how to step so many years ago, over 35 years ago, this was not a form that was practiced outside of our collective groups. Very much a secretive, private tradition, if you will. And Step Afrika still honors that. But it's been wonderful to introduce this tradition to the world and share it while still centering and promoting its origins, the Divine Nine, in historically Black fraternities and sororities, and stepping's role as a folkloric tradition, not just a dance that can be consumed in studios.
Can you say a bit more about that, about it being a folkloric tradition?
Well, I think that I say folkloric, I really stress that because when we started stepping, a lot of people said, well, it's street dance. Like it was, and you and I know more than anybody that it's far from street.
It's a lot of work.
And much love to all forms that come from all parts of life. But, stepping is created on the hallowed halls of a college campus. Let's be very clear about that. And I love that. That's another part of African American history and culture. I love hip hop's origins. I love stepping's origins, and I just want both to be recognized. And so I recognized early that stepping was not, born out of African American culture just gathering, although it's rooted in African American culture. It had a very specific purpose and was created by African American college students with a very specific purpose in mind to promote communal and sisterhood and communal bonds and sisterhood and brotherhood. So that's much like traditional dances all around the world, folkloric dances, a dance that has a purpose beyond just performance. It has a role in the community, if you will.
Yeah, tied to cultural preservation in many ways, sounds like.
Absolutely. Preservation and promotion, if you think.
Promotion and promotion. What was it like, or what has it been like watching stepping evolve from a fraternity or sorority tradition to an internationally celebrated art form?
I mean, I've enjoyed it immensely watching the transformation of stepping as an art form. And I've enjoyed watching the artists who have come through Step Afrika push the art forms in just exciting new ways, really demonstrating and exploring what one Washington Post review said as stepping's unlimited artistic possibilities. And I think that's what we've done for the forum. And I'm really happy about that, because if you look at where stepping, the root of stepping and what it does and how it is performed traditionally on college campuses and in communities, Step Afrika has taken that, honored that, but just gone in a very, very new and exciting direction with the forum, taking it to places I didn't even imagine when we first started the company in 1994.
And for the ways that it's evolved and taken it around the world, was that from your ideas? Like, we want to go beyond the college campus? What was the first sign that this was going to be a dance company that could thrive and connect for those that we're not just in sororities and fraternities?
Well, I think our journey, our now historic journey to South Africa in December 1994 was the first indication that we were on to something. The very first time we walked into the YMCA in Soweto and performed for about 100, 150 children there, and seeing their immediate response to the forum they had never seen before, but connected to absolutely, without question. That's when I personally said, I knew this was going to be exciting for us. I didn't calculate how exciting it would be for South Africans at the time. And I think that excitement that was generated is what led us to continue and keep innovating. And then I think the artist excitement. I mean, when I first started Step Afrika, I went to the fraternity, my chapter in particular, beta chapter at Howard University. And I first told them about the idea. And, I didn't know how they would respond. And I thought it would be a one and done thing. We'd go there to South Africa, we'd have a great time. Then I'd come back and go to law school or something like that. But the excitement that the brothers and the transformation that they experienced by sharing this art form for the first time on the continent of Africa in history changed them and inspired us to, maybe we should do it again. And 30 years later, we're still doing it.
Thank you for that background. There's so many questions I have that are moving through my head. I've, of course, seen Step Afrika perform on stage, and I'm also familiar with step shows. But you aren't doing step shows, are you? Can you talk a little bit about what someone might see if they go to a Step Afrika performance? Because it's not just a step show.
No, it's so far from that. I mean, I'll give you an example. If you look at the tradition of stepping as historically performed, this is a sister of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated that, we would dance, we would rehearse for months in the evenings after class, of course.
That's right.
For a 10-minute step show. So you would do a lot of rehearsal for a 10-minute experience for the audience, and you would pour all your heart into that. And that was a model. And the step show would be a series of 10-minute shows from different fraternities and sororities. Step Afrika's show is 90 minutes by itself. So, and we had one step or one dance work that can be 20 minutes long. So that demonstrates already how far we're using the tradition of stepping, but really applying it to a dance, historic dance context. Like you go to see the A-League, you see works involving contemporary movement or contemporary ballet or whatever, however they do modern dance. Same thing. You see Step Afrika doing modern dance works, but using stepping as the form. And that in itself is revolutionary and transformative. And no one, to be honest, in the country, in the world, does it like Step Afrika ever has. So we are really setting the standard for what is possible with this form. And more folks need to understand that. Most folks they're introduced to stepping through us. They don't know the historical journey of the art form, where it comes from, that like we do. And I understand that, but it's hard for them to analyze how much we've done with the form when you don't know the original intent of the form. Because you know the tradition. Most people have no idea when they see the company perform.
Well, what you all have done when you go to see you perform, you recognize stepping as an art form from your experience, but you all add a theatrical component where you start to tell a story. Also notice how you've intersected fine art and jazz and African dance so that when you come to a show, it's never just one experience. And you leave feeling all kinds of emotions, from hype to excited to move, depending on, the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think one of the works in particular that you're referencing is The Migration. It's a classic example of Step Afrika using the art form to tell a story that has really never been done before, And The Migration was a huge step in our evolution, where we were like, let's go beyond stepping for step's sake and use it to tell stories and give different emotions. And that's not historically a stepping thing, So it's been exciting to see that. And we've developed, the people who've gone through Step Afrika are the world's leading choreographers in this tradition. People like Jakari Sherman, who is the world's leading choreographer for the art form of stepping by far. Conrad Kelly, who is currently Step Africa's assistant artistic director is in that vein. He is
Okay.
taking stepping in some very new, exciting ways because he comes from a dance world, but he
Mm.
steps very, very well. So he's able to take it to some places that we didn't expect. And then my frat brother, your frat brother, Christopher Bryant, passed away some years, but was really working to push the form as well. So we've seen several people come through the company that are really giants in the
Mhm.
form when it
Yeah,
comes to choreographic works and expansion.
that's right. Full on artistic productions that help you see a complete narrative. When you talked about the migration through your art form, you're showing Black people moving through different cities with, I'm remembering suitcases, and it's very innovative. And that's just one of your pieces.
Yeah.
One of the things that my family goes to every year is your holiday show, which is actually happening right now. For those that are listening, we're recording this in December. My family's going to see the show on Sunday, but that brings in a whole nother level of excitement and has continued to. How long have y'all been doing that show?
I think it's our 13th year. I haven't counted.
Okay.
It might be 13, 12. I don't know. We've been doing it for quite some time, but that is starting to become, Allison, what I may consider one of our most significant works because it has become a tradition for families annually. So glad that your family will be joining us. Many people start their holiday season with that show. And what I like to say, and that I'll say here, I don't say it a lot, but I'll say it here. I'm going to say company is that, I love that there's no other show like that in the world.
None.
Every city might have a Nutcracker, and I love the Nutcracker. A
Mhm.
Christmas Carol, fantastic. Every city has that. Black Nativity, all over the place. Only Washington, D.C. has Step Africa's magical musical holiday step show, and it's a very unique approach to celebrating the holidays. And I can't even tell you how much I love that work. And I love the experience that we create with our community in that show. The audience is so important to us in any show, but for the holiday show, it's the 20th performer.
Yes, right. We are part of the show.
Yeah.
The first time we went, I think maybe my nephew was 3 or 4. He was on the
Hmm.
stage at the end of the day. My father was like 76. The next year, both of them, two different ages. Are we going to see Step Africa again? Like, so excited about what to come, what to expect. And I think the idea that you all could create this platform for both
Mm.
creating the kind of joy and the holiday show, but then also at the same time having a piece like the migration, creating another sense of experiences is fascinating. Toward that end, when you think about your audience and how
Yeah.
it's evolved over the years, can you talk a little bit about how you knew there would be an audience for what you do?
I don't think I knew that there would be an audience. I just knew I wanted to do it. And it's been
Mhm.
interesting to see that the audience has developed beautifully from that. And I think it has developed a lot because we do listen to our audience and we
Mm.
do explore what's missing. I think the creation of the holiday show specifically was like, I really truly felt like there's nothing that quite resonates with me during the holidays. There's something missing. We could provide something really special during the holidays to our community. And what I love is that we can center African American culture, but as you can see at our holiday show, everybody is welcome. It
That's
is
right.
centered aggressively around African American culture. It is also centered aggressively around American culture and traditions, and all of us share that. So it is like my favorite moment in the holiday show is at the end when the kids may run around and decorate the tree, and you'll never see a more diverse audience
Nope.
decorating the same tree. And I think there's a lot of metaphors there that I'm very happy about with the holiday show that I could talk forever about why that show in particular is transformative in terms of identity, expression, universality, all those different.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you on the show. When we think about cultural catalysts, we talk about those people that are working behind the scenes to create magic for the people that are in the audience, the people that you may not always see because they're not performing on the stage, but they are very integral in making sure that the audience has a specific experience. Now, I
Mhm.
know back in the day, you were actually performing with Step Africa, but like now, as a executive producer and founder, what does your day-to-day look like?
Well, my day to day is creating the structure that those artists can create. That is the focus. How do I create? Performing, I've heard other people say this, performing is a muscle. And what I always say about Step Afrika is we spend much more time performing than we do rehearsing. And that's important to me because it's one thing to rehearse in the studio and get all excited about what you're doing. It's another thing to do it in space,
Mhm.
right? And at the end of the day, I don't do this personally for the studio. I do it for the people. So I'm always thinking about the people. And I'm
Yeah.
always thinking about how the work feels in space, not for my own personal enjoyment and the fulfillment in the studio, you know?
Right.
I'm always very thinking about how will the audience respond? What will they do? What can we do?
Mhm.
And but not sacrificing how I feel about performing individually. Like I have to enjoy that to be able to deliver that. So South Africa looks for artists that really love the stage, really love performing. Because you're going
Mhm.
to spend a lot more time on stage than you will in the studio.
Stage and around the world too.
Yeah, yeah, all over the world.
How did you all become a cultural ambassador? How did you all start traveling around the world? You talked about South Africa and your connections there, but how does this even happen? Like, were you sitting at home one day thinking, you know what? We want to take this to XYZ.
You know what I think happens? I think, hey, we started off internationalizing. So by starting in South Africa, the company's origins, although they started on the college campus with learning how to Step Africa begins in Johannesburg, South Africa, December
Mm-hmm.
1994. So I think we've always, it's part of our DNA to travel and tour the world. It's just how we began. Just like it's
Mm-hmm.
in our DNA to work with children and to
Mm-hmm.
serve children at all times. But I think for those artists out there who are developing companies or concepts, it is about getting in front of audiences as much as possible. I think about starting off where I was just always looking for performance opportunities, just kind of relentless. It wasn't about money. It was about performing and wanting to do it. Of course you need money to pay and create, but you have to get in front of people as frequently as possible, which is why I'm a big fan of the multi-day runs versus the one-offs. When I entered the dance world, I was really intrigued that, you would rehearse for months and months and you would do a weekend or you do
Mm-hmm.
one night or two nights. I was like, that is not efficient. That is not good business. That's much too much rehearsal for 2 nights. I need at least 5 shots at the
Mm-hmm.
show. I'm
Right.
gonna rehearse for months. I want at least 5 or more shots. And I think that's where we started. That's how we were able to build the muscle, the performance muscle, to go off Broadway and
Mm-hmm.
sell out shows there. Because theaters used to 8 shows a week. Dance was not. But
Mm-hmm.
we were able to make that adjustment and kill it,
So
because of that muscle.
we're talking about innovation for the art form, for the business model, and the way that you hire teen full-time dancers, but then also your vision of taking it international. That is not something that just someone sits around and puts together. I think I've known that you have a business background too, right? Is that correct? Am I making that
Yeah,
up?
I'm a marketing
Okay.
undergrad. I
Okay.
studied business in school, and I'm appreciative of that skill set only because, I'm not afraid of the business terms. I'm not afraid of accounting terms.
Mm-hmm.
I can work myself around a worksheet. I'm not good at
Mm-hmm.
manipulating Excel, but I recognize it. So those fundamentals, and most importantly for those artists out there, writing, that is probably the skill that college helped me develop more than anything. So that when it was time to write grants, that was nothing to me. It was very easy to at least give it a shot. Whereas for some artists, it can be overwhelming and just draining the process. But to me, I actually find it fun. Put my to work to put my concept into words, and
Mm-hmm.
excite those who might help us bring it to fruition. So I view the grant writing experience, I view it very positively. I love it. I've been writing grants my whole career and learned how to do them with Step Africa. So, you know, that's a
Yeah.
muscle I like to use.
And to speak a little bit more about that muscle, what we know is dance companies, dance companies founded by Black people, but more importantly, in the nonprofit sector, when you think about the grant panel experience, the grant application experience, we're talking about arts organizations attempting to get funding for their art and being asked to articulate who they are in words when what
Yeah.
they do is through movement. And
Yeah.
that's not necessarily an easy switch. And so I want to, again, amplify what Brian is saying here in that it's one thing to have an idea to start a company, another to find artists that are aligned with your values and are stepping at the quality that, represents your brand. But then to get it funded and get people interested, that is, and I've sat on grant panels and read applications from Step Afrika, and I've been so excited because it's not easy to share your vision and the way you do what you do in words. Sometimes you just have to experience, but I think you all have found a great way to do both. And
Well, and to the artists out there listening to you, I think they should not be dismayed if that's not their skill set. I would probably say they're probably better at performing at it than I was when I was performing. So, I mean, sometimes you can't have it all. You can't be an amazing diva performer and an awesome grant writer. Sometimes it just doesn't work like that. I'm definitely was not the diva performer. I was a pretty good grant writer. So, and so I started to focus on what I did best as I managed the company and let others who dance. So we need to recognize in our field that we may not have it all, and we've got to figure out somehow, if we don't have that skill set internally, we access others who have it and to try to bring that into the company. Like I
how do
could
you
never,
find people that can help, like that you trust to
yeah.
support and align with your vision?
Well, I just think you have to use your network. Like I'll never forget the fraternity was a huge network for me. I didn't know how to even create a nonprofit. One of my frat brothers was a lawyer. He did it for me pro bono. Huge. Shout out to Kevin Monroe.
All right,
And
Kevin.
he's living in LA. He's an entertainment attorney doing fantastically well. But he stepped in and helped us at a time that we really needed that. So your network is important. If your network is all artists, that might be kind of tough. Might need to broaden the network a little bit,
Yes, yes,
and that's
yes.
where college is so important. Coming out of high school, you're not going to have the same type of network that if you did it coming out of college. So education has been critical in my development.
I'm hearing as you talk about the process that you've developed over the years, I hear a natural curiosity for what your audience is experiencing and what they want to experience. I'm hearing your vision get clearer as you move through the years, and that opens more doors, but then also your network contributing and filling in those spaces where you aren't an expert. So, because nobody does this work alone. And I think that's also important to state. But as you work as both in the arts and business side, do you consider yourself a creative entrepreneur or a business owner? Like when we hear people say they own a dance company, I never hear them say I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm curious about how you think about that.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely say I'm a creative entrepreneur. I would definitely say I'm a business leader. I would also say that I'm an artist. A lot of artists question you when you have strong business skills, to be honest. I dealt with it a lot. When I was starting Step Afrika, I was dealing with artists from around the world who had like this certain position of being an artist. And they looked down, quite honestly, on my marketing degree, my, thousands of years in dance class, hours of dance classes. And so I dealt with that a little bit, but again, that has just been my skill set that I've been able to bring to Step Afrika that has helped us grow and develop. So for artists who are 1000% artists and think the administration is exhausting, they must partner stronger. This is a business. I always say yes, it's an artistic enterprise, but it is a business. So understanding the balance sheet, recognizing what a budget is, and my executive director would probably think I'm not good at this at all, tracking expenses, all that stuff. But I'm not good at it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've been able to partner with others who are good, even better at it than I am.
But you didn't always have an executive director either. I
Mhm.
remember where you were holding down both the roles. How did you decide that it was time at Step Africa's evolution to hire an executive director?
Well, this is something that's important for any organization to check out, is that you want to hold it close, but you don't want to choke it.
Can you say that again for the people in the cheap seats? Founder syndrome is real.
Founder syndrome is real, real. Holding something that you love and started like a baby is so important. But once they get 30, they're not babies anymore. You need to let it go. They're not babies at 20. They're really not babies at 15.
Right, right.
And the question becomes, is that you can't let go of mercy. Do you think the organization needs you more than it does, really? So I kind of did a little humble check on that and recognized not only was I holding the organization back with my limited skill set and understanding, but I was holding people who worked in the organization back because there was nowhere to go. If I held all the titles, district director, executive director, end all be all, I could still be the end all be all, but I could have an executive director and an artistic director.
That's right.
Collectively make a decision, and I might flex at some point, and I do.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
And sometimes I yield space and I create space for autonomy and independence within the structure. So I have a lot of people invested in the company. That's much more than me. And that has been a huge win structurally for Step Afrika.
I think so. And I'm going to echo the same thing. MCE, my business is in its 8th year, going to be in its 9th year. And this year I said,
applause.
Oh, shout out to MCE. I said, what got us to 8 years was blood, sweat, and tears and pulling out of my head and resourcing where I can. But what's going to get us to the next 8 years, we're going to have to refine things a bit and bring in new voices. And, the power of recognizing, having enough self-awareness to say, you know what, it's time. I think that is a gift, because we also know in the dance world that doesn't always happen either. And so not just dance, but all different art forms. So that's
small business.
Yes, small business.
Small business. I mean, big business doesn't have this problem because they can't.
Right.
It's too big. Right. At some point you become too big to hold. And that's real. Like Ailey couldn't do it. It's a massive enterprise. There's no way. But small businesses, because it takes blood, sweat, and tears to get them launched and even to sustain them for years. Right. I get it. I feel very lucky. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, like generations of entrepreneurs. As soon as Black people could be entrepreneurs, we were entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
We might have been entrepreneurs during slavery.
Probably.
Somebody was hustling somewhere.
That's right.
Let's be clear. But as soon as emancipation came, my family on both sides, I think, far branches I could go back, were immediately involved. Like my great grandfather started a funeral home in early 1900s in Texas. My great grandmother, was a farmer, and my great grandmother was a catering and restaurant in 1920-30. So entrepreneurialism and business is kind of in my blood, whatever that means.
Well, I think having a line
I've seen examples.
Yes, that's right. Knowing that it's possible, that you can have an idea and then bring it to life. So that's a gift, because some people might have an idea, but very rarely take the next step to move with it. And having seen it in your family, was possible. I'm the same way. My dad had several businesses growing up and just was always thinking about different ways to be in community. And some of my parents' friends, same thing. So it didn't seem odd to
try it.
Might as well bet on and it's the biggest bet on yourself ever.
Yeah. But seeing is believing. No, I hear you in that case. And so for me, since I've seen so much of it as you have, I also saw what strangling a business looks like.
Yep.
Or what it can do.
Yep.
How you can strangle your own growth or limit it.
Yeah, and taking the time over a period of years to grow, because you could have said, first 5 years, we're going to be whatever. But 30 years, you have literally, it seems very deliberate the way that you have evolved. I wonder, what's one lesson you've learned in the last 5 years that you are glad you didn't know before you embarked on this journey?
Answer this way, because it triggers something for me.
Okay.
One lesson I learned in the last 5 is that the opportunity is there. And especially here in this country, as an artist. 5 years ago, I thought it was scarcity. And it is true, there are limited resources, but the fact is, while there might be limited in one category, there's so many other categories that you can explore. And that's what's interesting about being an artist in America, is in a country as large and diverse as ours, I just tell you, it really is the envy of the world. And I know because I travel all over the world and I see how much they want to be a part of this American structure. So for those of us who are born here and who are working and looking, that is a lesson I'm like, I didn't recognize. So what does that mean? That means I recognize that there's so many opportunities, although there might be some challenges and ones that I know, there are so many out there that I haven't even tried to nurture or develop or focus on.
Yeah.
That if
Yeah.
I just really work and figure it out, I'll find my audience. And I will say this, your audience, you can build it, like it's like, a mega church is 5,000 people. That's a mega church. It's not a lot of people to be in mega anything. Why can't we look at if we were able to hold 5,000 people that love us and want to see us, we would be much stronger. Sometimes we're so worried about being Beyonce big, we're not worried about just being who we are in our communities. And that might be more than enough to sustain. So that's been very empowering to me too. Sometimes it's like, if I'm not touring the nation, I'm not hitting. Sometimes you're hitting if you're just really serving DC very, very well.
Yes.
And maximizing that opportunity. So I don't know if that holds, but it's just something that I think about a lot.
Well, I mean, as you think about that and as you plan based on those thoughts, I'm sure it informs what you do and how you are known as DC's cultural ambassador. I guess, what are some of the common misconceptions people might have about stepping as an art form? And maybe even running a dance organization?
I think one misconception folks will have about stepping is that we're a step team, about Step Afrika. That's what they'll think about Step Afrika. And that's still something we fight. Like, oh, that's a nice little step team you got over there. That's why I'm very aggressive to say it's a company.
That's right.
19 full-time artists. I would say steppers. I say artists. I always say artists. They're multidisciplinary artists who can step and dance and drum and sing and do so many things.
Right. Words have power. Yeah.
So I've always resisted that. So that's one huge misconception that we continue to battle for those. And that's for those who know the tradition. One of my favorite board members, I always joke with him. One of my favorite stories from one of my board members is when he first came to see us, he was like, I'm gonna come to see Step Afrika. I'm an alpha, I pledge, I know what stepping is. And then he walks into our show and he's like, this is not how I stepped in college. That performance I've ever seen, maybe I need to investigate a little bit more. And that to me is really exciting for those of us who know the form. If they can get behind the fact that it's stepping, and when they come see it, they'll recognize the mastery that is being delivered on stage.
Yeah. I'm going in a different direction, but this is like, I remember during COVID seeing you all announce that y'all were previewing a film or something. And I'm thinking so many people were destitute trying to figure out what they were going to do with their life, let alone their day-to-day in their art form. But you all were making a film. Like, how did you make, especially with dance, right? Especially with dance, how did you transition what you do on a stage to a film? This is again innovation.
Let me tell you this. COVID was a mess. And we were in the middle of a hit show off Broadway, Drum Folk, completely sold out, killing the game. From killing the game, packed audiences, to the show is canceled, find your way home. I was like, okay, this will happen for a couple of days, like everybody. We know the stories, right? So when I got home, those first 2 weeks, I kind of just sat and just observed. And I had always been fascinated by film and the medium. So I started watching some YouTubes about maybe we'll start a TV channel, and I always had these delusions that I really wanted to be involved. COVID also taught me that I'm not interested in that. But what we did figure out was how to capture art form beautifully. That was a great 2-year lesson. Now, I haven't made a film since, and I might not ever make another one because I decided that's not what I want to do. I prefer the live experience.
Right.
But the innovations that we had there were fascinating. So if we ever return back to it, it will be interesting. It's just not my medium.
Yeah, I mean, and it's great that you're that clear about it,
Mhm.
right? You can try it, see, yeah, it's not for me, but we did it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's another part of being an artistic director or
yeah,
a business owner. You can have an idea, see how it works out, and then say, no, we'll go in a different direction.
yeah,
And that's a part of leadership, right? Like the lessons, the maybe it doesn't show up the way that you hope it will. And so you just pick yourself up and go a different direction.
yeah. It was powerful though. It was a powerful moment. I mean, it was the only direction we had, and we were able to be very successful throughout COVID, so much so that we were able to keep all of our artists employed.
Oh my, throughout COVID?
Let me tell you what we did.
Oh my gosh, that's a gift.
We literally, they were only laid off for 2 to 3 weeks maximum. And that
Wow.
was from March 1st to March 15th. By March 15th, 16th, we were back in the game.
How do you think so quick? Like so many people were just trying to figure out what they were doing day to day. How did you figure
I
out
mean, I
a
wish people
model?
would really ask us that because myself, Lamar Lovelace, executive director, brilliant
Flowers to
administrator.
Lamar.
Shout out to Lamar. Connie Perez, who at the time was our director of development.
Okay.
We put our heads together and we figured it out and we centered the artist. We knew that was important. And, once we got on the road, once we made our first film, we never looked back. So our artists worked for all of COVID, salaried.
My gosh, the
And to
listeners,
be honest,
please.
I
That's
know,
not
right? Like,
normal.
it was crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It was crazy.
We got hit so bad during COVID. And
Yeah,
I was on so many Zooms about the devastation and the
yeah.
emergency funding. And then I go to YouTube and I'm like, what? Your film? I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, wow.
Step Afrika's still working. But you know what? There was a lot of people that worked. Our presenter partners
Mm,
stepped up to the mic. One of the projects that we created during that time was 5 days with Step Afrika. I
mhm,
thought was going to be seen by maybe 1,000 kids, ended up being seen by hundreds of thousands of kids all across the country. We did No Justice, No Peace. We did Mask It Up, our little art tribute to DC Go-Go. We
mhm.
did so much during COVID, and we worked. We worked every day. And I had a ball doing it. It kept me sane. Now, in
Mm.
hindsight, I probably would just get a flight, go to Thailand, and kick it for 2 years because it would be nice.
Right, right,
And if I
right.
could afford to do that, do that.
Yes.
But at the time, I was more intrigued. I went into fight or famine. I wanted to survive aggressively,
Mhm.
and I wanted my artists to survive. I could have just laid everybody off and just gone and chilled somewhere, but I wanted the company. I wanted to honor our employment with our artists very badly. And I'm so proud of it. I don't talk about it a lot. It's probably my first time really talking about it, but that was a huge moment. So when COVID ended, we were ready to go to hit the road.
For the listeners that are like, what, why are they making such a big, the reality is during that time, organizations were closing left and right, and they still haven't come back. So to not only be working and employing your whole dance company, but then to come on the outside still working, that's no small feat. I mean, just providing leadership in that, Brian, who knows who could learn? Because you
Yeah.
never know where we're going to end up in this world that we live in.
And our board of directors, was
Mm,
huge a part of that process.
yes,
We were
yes.
meeting with them weekly and we were analyzing but we had done the work prior to COVID to have created some sense of financial reserve. It was bizarre, but it was a very artistically fruitful time for the company. And I wonder, will we return to that medium? I don't see it because we're so busy now performing live. It's hard to do both. I will say that. It's
Yeah.
hard to really perform as much as we do all around the world on stages in community and believe in live performance. And it's hard to schedule in what it takes to create excellent film projects. It's just a different world, and I honor it and respect it.
Man, you learn so much about so many things when you have to think outside the box.
Mhm.
As I hear you talking about the successes that you've had and that you who's been involved in the journey. Of course, I hear the dancers, I hear your executive leadership that are helping on the administrative side. I hear about your board of directors. I hear about legal support and presenters. And of course, we know your agent. How do you navigate managing all of that? Because ensuring that the relationships stay sound and
Mhm.
fruitful is not a small feat. Like what do you do to make sure people stay engaged?
Well, at this point, it takes a team. I'm very blessed to have a very strong team. I think, most nonprofits, especially in the dance world, are
Mhm.
having challenges with hiring and HR. You know that well because I know
Mhm.
you've done that work. But we just have a good team and we're going to keep looking. Like right now, we're desperately looking for development. That's a big
Okay.
need for us right now. We haven't been able to figure that out. It's an expensive position and it's a
Mhm.
very transient position. It can be. At least that's how I've seen it. So we're still growing. And so I think the fact is that even though we're really successful and strong and incredibly stable, there's still a lot of areas in need of development
Yeah.
within the structure.
Hmm.
So you just keep striving, you
That's
know?
important to name because it's even as you have those successes and those wins and the things
Yeah.
that you've done well, there's always something. There's
Yeah.
always something. And being able to name it as a part of the reality without
Mhm.
shame, without blame, but just say, okay, this is what it is. We got to figure it out. How do
Mhm.
you stay inspired and motivated in your work, given all that exists in this industry? Some that, have that scarcity mindset, the
Yeah.
resources being what they are. How do you stay motivated?
I think the audience in the community motivates me. Like
Mm,
right now, we're in the middle of our holiday show. We've done 12 shows. They've been all extremely packed. So the community is excited. And when the community is excited, I'm excited. Not to say that if the community was sad, I'd be sad, but I do feel energized by their embrace of what we are working so hard to bring to
mhm,
them, for
mhm.
them, and because they are us and we are them. So it's like this show in particular, I think I posted on Facebook about just saying thank you when it was already 90% sold out before we'd even opened the show. And I
Oh,
was proud, but I was also humbled and very thankful that the community was that excited about what we were working to present. So that kind of stuff makes me work even harder versus
mhm.
getting complacent or relaxed. It actually motivates me to go even more intensely. But you can imagine as we keep building upon these successes, it just keeps driving me to just try something else. Like
Yeah.
right now, we just announced yesterday the Step Afrika Step Classic, which will be
Mm,
an inaugural, a first ever event for us in downtown Washington, D.C. We want to bring step teams from all across the country to perform and celebrate this tradition like never before and do some special things. So we just announced that, and that's February 14th through 16th in
okay.
D.C., and we're working for that now.
And so I'm hearing also that you never lost your direct connection to stepping on the college campuses or just step teams in general.
Mhm.
The idea that a Black-led arts organization can continue to uplift a Black art form that engages all kinds of people, but never loses its root is serious. Like another, noteworthy thing that I just want to amplify. Okay, two more questions and then I'm gonna let you go. I swear, I swear. Okay, you've received multiple awards and honors for your work in the arts. Which achievement has meant the most to you and why?
I think the National Heritage Fellow, because
Mhm.
once again, that's the nation's highest honor in the folk and traditional arts, and it's most significant to me because it validates exactly what I've been trying to do for 30 years, which is recognize, look at this form and see it for what it is. Distinct, incredibly unique art form developed here in the United States, informed by African culture and traditions, but
Mhm.
shaped and fired here. So that award in particular, and to your point earlier about who Step Afrika is, what I love about us, Allison, is that look, no shade to contemporary and ballet. Love those traditions, right?
Mhm.
But what Step Afrika does is a form that is distinctly African American,
Mhm. Yep.
right? And so we have raised that high. I mean, there's still more work to be done, but I want folks to recognize ballet is fly. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Stepping is a very distinct and unique movement practice that requires its own skill set, beauty, style, and effort. And one is not high art and one is low art, and they're both just art.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I'm very serious about because that's when we've been up against that for a lot. Like I want people to start to now analyze when they see Step Afrika, analyze the movement practice. How do we use our bodies? What's important to us? What physique is important to us? This is a different form that
Yep.
requires different body type, structure,
Mhm.
energy, use
Yep.
of the body. We're using our body very differently.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
need to honor and really respect that as much as we do all the different styles.
That's right. That's right. You know, when I think about MCE's work, a lot of our work is helping grant makers think about how this work, Step Africa's work, or other organizations that are heavily rooted in their own culture, it's not explicitly about the art form. It is
Mhm.
cultural preservation. And so when you think about that as a whole comprehensively, you're funding so much more than a show. So you're funding people seeing themselves on stage and believing that they
Mhm.
could do, like there's so many ways to think about it. And I just want to say kudos to Brian and all other people that have bet on themselves with their ideas because it's not a small feat. Okay, last question. In your experience, what are the essential elements needed for someone to thrive in the performing arts industry?
Love for the form. I'm so happy that money has never been the objective with this work, not to ignore the need for money to make the work happen, but this is the work that I would be doing whether or not it generated income or not. Would I be able to do it the way I do it? No, of course. So I think really loving the artistic process is very, very important because I think it allows you to maintain some degree of integrity
Yes.
with what you're doing. Because when you're doing it to make money, it's a very different motivation. And I think about this in business. You know, are
Hmm.
you a dentist because you love helping people's teeth and really love that process? Or are you
Yeah.
a dentist because it's a lucrative practice? So
Hmm.
how you will approach the creation of your practice or your work will determine if you love it or not. So I think for the arts in particular, loving the work is critical and really being extremely passionate and clear about your purpose. But and I would also say another skill set would be, I would really say that the writing skill is something I would try to develop. I know it's a hard skill to develop because not a lot of people have experience with that. You've been in dance classes mostly and haven't taken a lot of English and speech writing classes, it might be more difficult. But because the grant world is very important to our structure. The
Hmm.
nonprofit world, the grant world is just a big part. So you're going to end up writing something. So
Hmm.
I would develop that skill. I really, really would. If I'm not going to hire it out and be dependent on someone else to do it for me, I would try to develop that skill for our field in particular.
All right, Brian. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. It's been an honor, but okay. How can we find you? How can we stay abreast of all that you all are doing?
There's one simple way,
Okay.
stepafrica.org, and we spell it's Step Africa with a K. We're on social media on IG and Facebook. Just reach out to us and look at our work, great videos online, a newsletter, all the things that you need to track and see if we'll be in your city. So thank you
Yes.
for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Okay, listeners, another great conversation with a cultural catalyst. Stay tuned until the next time. Thank you for tuning in to Cultural Catalyst. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us for more inspiring stories from the world of arts and entertainment. You can find me on social media at MCE Arts and Alison T. McNeil on LinkedIn. Please leave a review and tune in to our next episode for more creatives behind the curtain. See you next time.